Imagine stepping into an elevator and waiting for someone else to press the button for you. Not because you couldn't reach it, not because the system was broken, but because there was a person inside, uniformed, trained, whose entire job was to pull a lever, stop the car level with the floor, and greet you by name if you were a regular. For nearly a century, that person was as normal as the elevator itself. Then one day, a small grid of buttons appeared on the wall, and the person quietly disappeared. This is the story of the elevator operator, a job erased not by crisis or collapse, but by a simple interface upgrade. And if you think your job is safe because it lives in your head, not your hands, this story might feel uncomfortably familiar. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, elevators were mechanical marvels, but they required human pilots. The operator stood inside the cabin, hands on a large metal lever that controlled speed and direction. Pull it one way, the elevator rose. Push it the other, it descended. Stop at exactly the right moment, or passengers would step into a gap between the car and the floor. It wasn't as simple as flipping a switch. The operator had to develop a sense of timing and rhythm, learning the feel of each building's system, how fast the pulleys moved, how the cables responded, when to slow down as the floor approached. A smooth, level stop every time was the mark of a skilled operator. But the job wasn't just technical. Elevator operators were also greeters, guides, and the voice of the building. In department stores, they announced each floor. Third floor, menswear, luggage, and sporting goods. In office towers, they remembered the faces of regulars, knew which executives needed which floors, and offered small talk during the ride. Before World War I, most operators were men. During the wars, women filled the role as men left for military service. The uniform, the steady pay, the daily rhythm, it became a real profession, with unions, strikes, and collective bargaining. In major cities like New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia, elevator operators went on strike multiple times between the 1920s and 1960s, demanding better wages and shorter hours. In 1945, 15,000 elevator operators in New York walked off the job, leaving 1.5 million office workers stranded, forced to climb dozens of flights of stairs. The strike made headlines. It disrupted entire city blocks. And it also did something unintended. It showed people that maybe elevators didn't need operators after all. How automation replaced the operator. The technology to automate elevators had existed since the early 20th century. But people didn't trust it. Riders were uncomfortable stepping into a machine with no one at the controls. The idea of pressing a button and trusting the elevator to stop on its own felt unsafe, impersonal, even unnerving. Then came the 1945 strike, and suddenly, automation didn't seem so scary anymore. Buildings began installing push-button systems. Floors were clearly marked. Emergency stop buttons were added for safety. By the 1950s, the first fully automatic elevator was installed by Otis in Dallas, Texas. It worked smoothly, safely, and without a single person inside pulling a lever. Public acceptance grew quickly. What once felt strange became normal. What once required skill became a grid of buttons that anyone could use. The role didn't disappear overnight. Some luxury hotels and historic buildings kept operators for prestige and service. But in most places, the profession quietly faded. Where there were once thousands of operators in a single city, now there were maintenance technicians who serviced the machines but never rode with passengers. The job had been reduced to software, sensors, and a panel anyone could understand in seconds. Elevator operators became the first major occupation in U.S. history to be eliminated primarily due to automation. Not because of war, not because of economic collapse, but because someone built a better interface. Automated elevators brought undeniable improvements. They were faster, more precise, and required no wages, breaks, or union negotiations. Buildings could run elevators 24/7 without staffing concerns. Passengers could travel independently, pressing buttons themselves without waiting for someone else to interpret their request. Safety improved. Modern elevators have sensors, automatic braking, emergency systems, and digital diagnostics that catch problems before they become dangerous. But something else changed too. The elevator stopped being a social space. There was no longer a familiar voice announcing floors, no one to greet you on a rough morning, no human buffer between strangers packed into a small metal box. The experience became faster, cleaner, more efficient, and more isolating. The operators themselves didn't all suffer. Because automation rolled out slowly over decades, many simply retired without being replaced. Some transitioned into other customer service roles. The shift happened quietly enough that there were no protests, no front-page crisis stories about mass unemployment. But that slow pace is the exception, not the rule. Today, when entire job categories face automation, they don't have decades to adjust. The technology rolls out in months, not generations. And unlike elevator operators, who could see the buttons appearing in buildings across the city, many knowledge workers won't see their replacement coming until it's already deployed. Next time you step into an elevator and press a button, notice how unremarkable it feels. You don't think about the lever, the timing, the person who used to do this for you. You don't wonder what happened to them, or whether they found other work. The interface is so simple now that the old way feels almost absurd. But before the buttons, there were real people. People who knew the rhythm of every cable and pulley in the building. People who learned passengers' names and made small talk on slow mornings. People who went on strike for better pay and won until the strike itself became the reason their job no longer made economic sense. Their profession wasn't destroyed by malice or greed. It was quietly made unnecessary by a better interface. Right now, across industries, new interfaces are being built. Interfaces that let anyone do what used to require training, intuition, or years of practice. Interfaces that absorb knowledge so smoothly that the people who once carried it start to seem redundant. The elevator operator story isn't a warning to stop progress. It's a reminder to ask, when the interface becomes so good that the expert disappears, do we remember they were ever there? Or do we just press the button and forget to wonder who used to do this for us?